So, Latin introduction. What this is, hopefully going to do is give you sort of a. Oh, Nick, are you recording this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, look at this! This is amazing. Wow. Very impressive.
Is that too far away? Well, I guess it'll capture the sound. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far away from my face as probably the best.
I was going to say, check my hair. Typical woman. Yeah, like I said, I thought it was going to be nose to the grindstone, and here we're.
Perfect. Wow. Okay, technology at its finest. Thank you. So, want to give sort of a broad covering of all the key things you need to hopefully go on and continue your study of Latin yourself. Latin it's a tricky thing. It's a complicated thing. It takes a long time, just like any language, to master. It takes constant work. Probably a minimum is, just for keeping up a language, is at least half an hour a day. So I mean, it is work, but and I think any less than half hour a day, you're probably going to see sliding back into nothing. Now that's to hopefully eventually achieve a real good grasp and mastery of the Latin. If you just want to be able to feel around and get, as you were mentioning, Kathy, an appreciation for terms and whatnot. Part of what I want to do is teach a good grounding in how to use a dictionary. It sounds kind of funny, but there's a way, because Latin is a different kind of language than English in some ways, to using the dictionary that you wouldn't just naturally necessarily get just by cracking it up and sort of looking for something yourself. So again, I'm really interested in what I'm really hoping is to get a firm competence on some pretty foundational things, so that people have that confidence to carry forward and keep the motor going and study on their own, or in later programs, future programs, that kind of thing. Any of it helps. The more reinforcement, the more constancy you have in it, the better. So I have this little. You can sort of see where I'm going with the chart here. Why study Latin? Why bother? What's the use? It's dead. Bury it. Right? Put a tombstone, and people want to drop flowers now and then. That's fine. They're going to stop them. But it is significantly important. It is, and for many reasons. So I've got this all sort of outlined here. Its place in the mind. One of the things we have to do as humans is continually form our mind. Otherwise, we get degeneration. And we are thinking all the time, hopefully, and so there is sort of a natural, you stub your toe, you're going to avoid something. There are little practical things that you think about all the time. So the mind tends to stay alive in that way. But as far as higher knowledge, higher education, you have to form your mind in particular ways. You have to develop certain areas of the mind. And Latin is a really excellent way of doing that. It's a fantastic way of stimulating the memory, of stimulating the reasoning process, of teaching logic and how to puzzle things out, because of the nature of the language, which we're going to talk about later. And I have a couple of quotes from some particularly cogent fellows about just that sum up, why Latin and Greek, why translation. This is from the Dean of Harvard Law School. This is from an old textbook. I gleaned this one. Dean of Harvard Law faculty in the 50s. And he said, he was just talking about translation, why it's valuable. And he's talking about it for lawyers. He says, there's no better way for the student to train himself in the choice of the very word that will fit his thought than by translating from Latin and Greek. Thus he develops the habit of analysis, habits of discriminating choice of words, habits of accurate apprehension of the meaning which another has sought to convey by written word, which lead to the power of expression and to the power of clear thinking. Such habits are worth more to the lawyer, and you can insert, even priest here. This applies, to those, going on to the priesthood, to be able to express articulately the concepts of the faith, and not just for the priest, but for any Catholic, to be able to express these concepts articulately, and to be able to define them in one's mind, is kind of essential for passing on the faith, in clearing up people's objections to the faith, in regular teaching and catechesis. To be able to understand these things, pinpoint them. What is the church saying by this? What is anybody saying by anything? To understand that, to be able to articulate your own thoughts, it's kind of key in the human dynamic of communications and education, period. So he says, such habits are worth more to the lawyer than all the information which a modern school may hope to impart. So he says, this guy says, for a lawyer training, the most important thing you could do, actually, is translate from Greek and Latin. It's kind of an interesting concept. And then just one more little thing, I think, if I can find it. Yes, this is just in terms of precision of thought, in terms of thinking clearly and accurately. The practice of translation, by making us deliberate in the choice of the best equivalent of a foreign word in our own language, has likewise the advantage of continually schooling us in one of the main elements of good style, precision, and precision of thought. This is not only not only exemplified by precision of language, but is largely dependent upon the habit. So, if you can make your words precise, it helps in making your thoughts precise. It helps in thinking clearly, logically, and so forth. So that's just from the sort of the mental value of actually working on this thing as a discipline. Even if it's distasteful, even if it's whatnot, you're actually going to be getting fruits in terms of your own intellectual life. Its place in education. Now, what has shaped the whole history of Western education is the study of the Latin language. It was, in fact, based on that. What people were expected to know was the Latin language, how to read it, how to understand it, grammar. So when they had grammar schools, 1 to 8, that was what people were being taught, Latin. And so it's immensely important to the history of education in the West, and hence its place in Western civilization. The greatest thoughts that our society is built upon, that people are tearing down at the moment, come to us from the classical tradition, come to us from the Greek and Roman authors of old, and their understanding of very fundamental concepts like natural law, human rights, international law. These kind of things sort of stem from the thought that you're going to find in Latin. Its place in the church. Until the Roman Catholic Church removes Roman from before Catholic Church, then Latin is an intrinsic part of our own right. You can't get away from it. If you look at church documents, people have been expecting popes and councils to remove Latin from the whole thing forever. There's a great push towards it again at the Second Vatican Council. There was a push towards it at the Council of Trent in the 16th century. People thought, just let's get rid of this Latin business because it's not cultural. And so this has been a long-standing argument. It's not something just broached at Vatican II. But the church documents consistently stress the fact that Latin is intrinsic to our right. So to our worship, which should inform our thought, our habits, our daily existence, as well as to the thought of the church. In fact, if you look at the works of the church, of church fathers, theologians, scholars, popes, councils, if you can't understand Latin, you can only get to the tip of that iceberg. Because most of the stuff in the church's history has not been translated into English. Most of the works of the fathers, probably 90% of the works of St. Augustine, at least 50% of the works of St. Thomas Aquinas, almost all the works of St. Bonaventure, none of the works of another doctor, less well-known doctor, but someone who should be well-known, St. Lawrence of Brindisi, great theologian. All his works are only in Latin. There are no translations of anything. Yeah. And in fact, if you this is just works that people have, coming from the church's tradition. You find all these works in manuscripts and whatnot, and so the works that we know about are works that people have actually, taken the manuscript down from the shelf and edited it and turned it into a book in Latin. So this is that. So when you factor in all the manuscripts that still haven't been edited, that are in Latin, in the original hand, the thing goes down, and we're still up here. So in order to actually approach the church's patrimony and history without Latin, you're sort of crippled. So worship, thought within